It was actually easy then because I knew how to use storytelling, but when I saw the response to it from employees, I was able to look at the culture strategy that I had laid out and the things that I wanted to work on, which was strengthening trust and really empowering that people leader level. And so when you have desired outcomes, you can then look at, what is it that I want the audience to do here? What do I want employees to do differently? Where are they at today? What might be an obstacle? And start to come up with different stories that focus on specific pieces. That's the easy part, because when you know what you're trying to achieve, you are then logically mapping stories against those pieces to help people understand. It's no different than content marketing that people do today, except instead of search engine optimization, it is employee motivation and behavior.
You mean, what should we do to encourage curiosity?
Not to encourage curiosity, but what we should stop doing so that we can grow curiosity.
Well, so yes, to be honest, scientists don't yet fully know all the reasons why curiosity seems to diminish a bit as kids get older. So every parent who listens to your show knows what it's like to have an 18-month-old. They're curious about everything all the time. They put it in their mouth, they rattle on it, they open it, they ask a million trillion questions, and that diminishes over time. Partly that's because as we get older, we get more familiar with the world around us, so we don't have to ask as many questions about it. And also there are other things that take its place, like knowing, not asking questions, but sharing what you already know. So some of that is inevitable. But I would say that one reason curiosity diminishes is because we give kids less permission to ask questions. It's just, so my research shows that when kids get to school, they ask far fewer questions, and they have far fewer opportunities to get answers to those questions, or ask a second question, or they don't get help answering their questions. Like, you could have a kid in school say, why does, I'm trying to think of a good example. Why does butter get hard in some circumstances and melt into a liquid in others? I don't know why I thought of that. That's just because it was breakfast recently here. But breakfast time. But any number of questions. Why is there global warming? Might be a question. And then instead of saying we don't have time for that question, or that's not the topic we're studying now, answer the question, or help your student figure out what they would need to do to get an answer. Because encouraging that curiosity is about the best educational skill you can give them.
I know.
And you need teachers. You don't just need wild freedom to pursue that. You need help learning how to make your questions better, how to get the right kind of answers that really will answer your question, the right kind of data, and knowing how to assess when your question's been answered. So there's a huge role for teachers and schools to play in that process, but the one thing that schools mostly do is the worst thing, which is to discourage question asking.
I know. How have you been growing your thinking?
There's many ways that I continue to grow my thinking. So first and foremost, I'm a lifelong learner. If I could go back to school today, I would. And study, lots of things that I'm so curious about. So I think the primary way that I grow my thinking is to continue to be learning and reading and talking with people and asking questions. And, I'm so fortunate to be part of a couple of professional groups that allow me to do that with some amazing colleagues. One of those is the Marshall Goldsmith 100 Coaches, which is where, I get to learn and share and grow and evolve with, the amazing, counterparts in that organization. Another is the Recognized Expert Group that Dory Clark founded.
Yeah.
I have some amazing colleagues there who, we, get to talk about and learn from and share, on a variety of topics, not just leadership. And I think that brings me to my second point, which is, the more that I can continue to learn and grow my knowledge in different areas, the more it helps me think differently about leadership and continue to inform my thinking, so that it gives me a different way to look at it. So I continue to, for example, I continue to learn ballroom dance, and I continue to compete in ballroom dance, which gives me another way of, looking at leadership, right? I continue to travel so that I'm continually exposed to new things and different things. And I'm looking at what I know as normal through a different lens, which gives me a way to think about it. And I think, just surrounding myself with people who challenge me with amazing questions like you just asked, also help me grow and continue to push that thinking. And that is, as hopefully a thought leader in this space of leadership going forward, that is what I hope to still bring to this space, a different way to think about this and a different way for people to think about their actions and their behaviors and their beliefs and how those are shaped to create how they show up in the world.
Beautiful. And thanks for sharing.
Well, I think one is we're talking, it's nighttime here in Colorado. So, when you work for yourself, you work all the time. But even when I worked for Space Foundation, I didn't just go to work and work 8 hours a day. I always was doing extra things. I was being a mentor, volunteering my time to help others. And so you have to prioritize your time, what's important. And you must always remember that you need to take care of yourself, just like a firefighter or on an airplane, you need to put your oxygen mask on before you can help others. So you need to take care of yourself, work out, eat right, take care of your family. And then what are your passions? Like I said, I am doing some strategic consulting, but that is the third priority. My first priority is really those paid speaking events, being able to share the insights, being that global transformational leader, or our space is part of our everyday lives, or motivational, or doing workshops or writing books. And then again, serving on those paid boards. How can I help with strategy development, implementation, creating that global impact for good? So you just have to prioritize time. What do you really want to do? And I say you have to create like a funnel. Some call it the BD funnel, the business development funnel. But what are your criteria for saying no? That's the other thing. So in addition to knowing what you say yes to, it's probably more important to know what you say no to. And so at this point in my career, when somebody calls me up and they offer me something, I might go, that sounds really interesting, but I'm just not sure that's, in line with the funnel and what I'm focused on. Let me get back to you. Or maybe this other person can help. So you also have to be able to know what are the things you're really passionate about, and then you have to learn to say no. And I will tell you, that is one of the hardest things I'm learning right now because, being in the military, you always are saying yes, we can get this done, yes, we can do this. And now you're having to really say, I have to make sure I don't overextend myself so that I can complete the obligations I've committed to. So, for all your listeners, whether you're probably a parent or you're running your own business, being able to say no is critical.
It is.